Hi, welcome to RADmom. Today we're talking about food issues and kids with RAD. Food issues, I think, start from day one when the kids have been neglected. They start developing food issues at that point. For my son, it started in the orphanage for sure. He was given 3 bottles a day as an infant, propped up on the side of his bed, and it was porridge, and if he moved, he missed that meal. And I think when, even though that's pre-verbal, I don't, he couldn't tell you about that today, but I think there's something in the, primal part of his brain back here that knows that food is something that is scarce. Or, he knows it, but it's not true in the world he lives in today, but I think his brain thinks it's true. And so, he overeats. Now, he also never sits still, so he does not have a weight problem or anything like that, but he drives everyone bananas with the way he wants to eat constantly. So, anyway, I just want to go kind of back to the beginning here. So when I went to Russia to get Noah, in addition to the things I witnessed in the orphanage with the bottles, I want to tell you about what happened on the airplane coming back. So we obviously, we went to the embassy, and then, we had to get a flight to come home, and there's something that is burned into my image image is burned into my memory that it just will never leave. I always tell my children, both of them, that one thing that you have to protect is what comes through your eyes. I'm big on telling my kids that, and this is why this is why porn is such a problem. This is why, you don't watch movies you shouldn't watch, because once something comes in through your eyes, you just can't get it out. And so we have to protect our eyes. And this is the exact reason why. Because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And not that what I saw is like something I shouldn't have seen. It's just that I will never be able to unsee it. And it's just sadness is what it really boils down to. But what happened is on the airplane, all of the people that were adopting kids, we all were basically in business class. And I think predominantly the reason is because you buy your plane tickets kind of last minute. You don't really have the option of buying them a month in advance, because you don't know when you're going to fly back. You have to wait until you get clearance through all the customs and embassy, and you have to have all your paperwork in order and things like that. So buying it way in advance is just not an option. As a matter of fact, I had purchased mine in advance and had to change my flight. And so you end up buying your tickets kind of last minute, and the seats that are available are business class. Not to mention the extra space is quite nice because you have you've got a bundle of joy in your lap. So for us, my mom was with me. So for my mom and I, it was nice because we had extra space for a baby. For other people, they might have had a toddler or, a young child or whatever. Some of them had, had a seat for that person. Some of them, were like us and had a lap child. But when it came to be mealtime, that's when my eyes were really opened. So for my baby, he's an infant, so he was eating a bottle, and he was having a bottle, and I was mixing it up in a traditional fashion. I got bottled water and put formula in it and fed him a bottle, and it was no big deal. He had formula, and he had GERD, with gastroesophageal reflux disease, so he would drink his bottle and throw it up, and so it was really kind of uneventful, except for the fact that he went through all of his clothes. So that was not really the issue. But what was the issue was the folks that had the toddlers, the 2-year-olds, the 3-year-olds, whatever. Any kid that was really old enough to be eating table food, that was just eye-opening. It was so disturbing. It was so sad. But what would happen is they would be served, the family would be, the person that had the ticket holder would be served a plate. And then they would also, they were so used to seeing this, you know, the families with the adopted kids, they would serve a plate for the baby as well. They would go ahead and give that person a plate as well. And so they would give an extra plate for the kid. And so they would serve 2 plates at 1 seat even. And so this little child, maybe 18 months old, or, you know, maybe even younger sometimes, or even older. It was even more sad when it was older. It was even more profound. But what the child would do is just scarf that food down. I mean, so fast. It was unbelievable. I'm talking like a plate of food, like a big plate of food would be just down their little bitty bodies in no time at all, just down their bodies. And then the adult, who, you know, was no different than, you know, just a American citizen who is accustomed to eating a normal diet, regular food in a normal manner, would use utensils and, you know, take a bite of food. So they would be biting food, taking food to their mouth, and the child would then follow the food from the plate up to the adult's mouth with their mouth. So they're like following that food up to the, you know, new mom or dad's mouth with their mouth, trying to get that bite of food, even though they just scarfed down an entire plate of food. And they would do it, all of the kids. It wasn't like one child did this. All of the children did this. And I'm sitting there holding my baby, and I'm watching all of these children do basically the same thing. And it was so shocking. And I'm just like, I mean, my eyes are just wide, and I'm just like, oh my word, look at this, what's going on? And I've never seen anything like it. And I'm just like, and I didn't even really, at the time, I certainly didn't really realize. I'm like, what in the world? I mean, it's like they're starving, literally. Like, you're thinking, gosh, these children are all so hungry. You know, I didn't really know what I was looking at the time. And now, of course, I realize these children's eating patterns are just so messed up. They don't realize that there's going to be, the next meal is going to be there. And that these parents who have now adopted them are going to make sure they have plenty of food, and they're going to get their next meal. They don't realize that that meal is coming, and that they're going to be taken care of, you know, later today, and then again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, that there's going to continue to be food. Because it wasn't, I guess, always the case. I mean, I guess in the orphanage, there must have not been adequate food. I know for my son, I mean, a bottle, if Feli didn't get that meal, I mean, he's an infant. 3 bottles a day, that's not enough. That's not enough. And porridge, and then he's throwing that up, that's not adequate. It's not enough. And there's no love in that. There's, you know, you're not being held. There's no love in that. There's no care. That's not enough. That's not okay. And so, you know, what had these toddlers been through? I mean, we will never know. We will never know the exact nature of what they've been through. But neglect is, I've always heard, I've always read, and I've heard from experts, talked directly with experts, and neglect is worse than abuse. It's worse than physical abuse, because at least with physical abuse, you feel the punch. You know the person's there. With neglect, you're just all alone in the world, and you don't know where you are. You know, you don't know where that other person is. You just feel alone. And so neglect is much worse. And so when they don't know where that food is coming from, and food is survival. Food means whether I live or I die. And so it's a big deal. So that's where these food issues start. And so now the question is, what are we going to do about it? So I will talk about that in part 2. Thanks.